tweeting, we are giving away more prizes throughout the night. So tweet away.
Yeah, we good?
We're good. Another jet. So we'll pause for a second. The Blue Angels are still here in Seattle.
I think we should add that to their drinking game. When the Blue Angels fly over, drink.
I'm sure they already have incorporated.
Any excuse is a good excuse, right? All right, let's go ahead and get started again. We're going to shift gears into location work. Really, I know I've said it a million times, and it's not that I'm embarrassed or anything by no means, but the majority, half of my work, if not more, is out on location. The first 13 years of my career, all of it was on location. My studio was super tiny, and the last place in the world that I wanted to be was there. However, Colorado winter months, I had no choice. So I did 6 months in, 6 months out. But May 13th, the grass is barely growing. It's still frosty in the morning. I had kids in bare feet outside because that's really where the beauty is. So I do want to make sure you know that these types of images, a lot of the location work you're seeing in here, that's more true to what I do. Today, I'm not trying to discredit myself, but I would call that fast food photography. I mean, we shot 4 totally dynamic sessions in 20 minutes each. I mean, that's just madness. But I had choices. I could have brought one set of children in here and just really done really creative lighting and artistic. And I know you guys have had amazing artists do that here. So to me, this was purely mechanical. It was get in, get it done. But I do want people to understand that there's a whole other side that very rarely do my students get to see because it's my day-to-day work. And as I said, I don't abuse my clients' images. I do want to note that every single client that I ever photograph will sign a model release. We'll discuss that later. So I can use all their work. But I'm very selective. I tend to use the ones that I know really love what I do and are comfortable with that. So you see more studio work because it's literally right off small stages like we were here. And that's how I get a lot of my samples that I use. Location, location, location. Location is what your client really wants. When you take children, especially out of that studio environment and get them out in the natural element, they absolutely are going to be more relaxed. You also have to realize that a client will pay a lot more money for natural photography, something that feels and looks like it really could have happened. And more than anything, the child is going to enjoy it. I mean, this is really where even a very shy, intimidated child is going to feel at home. It's so much easier to talk about bugs when they're really there. It's so much easier to say, oh, go pick that flower, or go over there, or look, is there a bunny? I mean, it's even more realistic to the child. So it becomes a little easier to take them from that overwhelming shy state. I think you have to realize, like in the studio session we were in today, there is so much going on here for a child. It's amazing that we could get any child in on the floor. And I think we successfully got every single child handled well in the time that we had. But can you imagine being 3, 4, 5 years old and all these people and all these cameras and everybody's staring at you? And I mean, right up through the little ones all the way through the big ones, you can see dynamically how it shifts them. So that's also something that in this scenario, we cannot show a real session. We would have to get an invisible camera and me alone for you to see what a real, calm, normal session would be. The world is at your door. Get outside. We're going to talk about session fees and how we handle it as well. So what do we charge for going on location? Now, this is something I've studied the entire career of my life. Trying to figure out what's the best way to handle this. I know that there are photographers that have an outdoor fee and a studio fee. Traditionally, the outdoor fee is more than the studio fee, so usually people charge a lot more to go out on location. In my case, I caught on really quickly that people spend a lot more money on outdoor photography. My family portraits, the big, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 sales, they're always outdoor photography. They're the bridge and the background and the trees. That's where somebody's gonna buy a 50-inch portrait. Studio work is important, it's necessary. So are jets. But, sorry, we got to give credit to the Blue Angels out there. Studio work is necessary, and for me in Colorado, there's a certain part of the winter I have no choice. So we really we market to our clients very heavily to come in during the summer and fall and spring because we know that they're going to invest better. So when I realized that studio, or that location work was by far more profitable, right out of the gate when I started my business, it just made sense not to charge more because you have to think from the state of a client. They don't know you, they don't know your work. So they're looking at your price list or you're explaining it to them and you're saying something like, my indoor session fee, the studio session is $75, my location fee is $150. What would be a client's natural inclination? Studio, it's half the price. So that happened all the time. People, and I never really had an outdoor session fee because the way I scheduled my life, remember I used to shoot like I still shoot like a machine, but back then it was 6 days a week, 10 to 13 jobs a day in a busy season. And I mean, I was just out there. I would literally pull up my truck. We'll show you, I've sold this van since then, but I would pull up my van, pull everything out, lay everything I needed out, and I would spend the entire day there. I would have an 8, 8:45, 9:15, 9:45. I mean, every 45 minutes all the way till 5 o'clock. And that's, my clients would show up, get out of their cars. I'd take them here, 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 here. And then the next client would show up and I would just keep going. In fact, we never booked me a lunch hour. The hope was that, because somebody always canceled. So I kind of always figured somebody's going to cancel, that gives me a break. And if there were rare days where nobody canceled and you shot, 10 sessions straight through, I loved it. And a lot of the speed and the things that I know are because I shot every day, all day. And it wasn't that I was crazy. At that time, my husband had retired and to stay home with our children, and I had fear. I was afraid that we wouldn't make it, and so I put my heart into marketing. I sacrificed. I made a choice to ensure that we had a good standard of living, and the sacrifice did pay off. I missed a lot of things with my kids. I missed some first steps and some teeth out and things like that, but I also knew that my husband was there, and there was a parent full time. So something has to give anyway. And the nice thing, I always say that, you can judge me for working so hard, but keep in mind I do have a parent that's home, and he has had all those experiences. The difference between me, and not to pick on men because I think fathers are wonderful, but I have mother's guilt. So there is something to be said about that. I miss those things, and so therefore I try harder to be a part of those things. And that always worked for me because there was always, even when I wasn't able to do what I wanted with the kids and I had to miss a school event or something, there still was that nagging, I'm a bad mother. And I know that sounds terrible, but it pushed me to say, okay, I didn't make that thing. What can I do to make it up? Let me do this. And not that fathers don't have that, but I think generally the workforce, it's kind of expected that dads are out there and they have to work that 9 to 5 or longer. And I think even most men get into that mode of that's their life, and they get an hour with the kids at home. And for me, I definitely had those guilty suitcases and packed them everywhere. So I spent a lot of years thinking I wasn't doing the right thing, but I didn't have a choice. I mean, we made a family sacrifice to make this happen. So for us, with the session fees, it was just a matter of, for me, I knew that there was more money to be made there. So my price was always the same. You could have an indoor session, you could have an outdoor session. There was no difference in price. We also don't have a difference in how many people are in the session. We don't charge more if you have, I see a lot of price lists that, for a family of 4, it's $50. For a family of 6, $20 per head. Well, you're talking $80. A parent's going to feel punished for having extra children, to me. I mean, it makes them go, okay, well, that's just too expensive. It's not, $80 is not too much. If they were to look at it and say $80 for a family, they'd go, okay, that's a fair price. But when they go, okay, great, now I've got to pay more, it's a mental thing. It just feels like you're getting punished. Now, if it's a family of 15, an extended family, I would certainly consider adding, in fact, we have an extended family fee because that does include breakdowns, etc. But I absolutely do not spend any more time on that than I would spend on a single child. I have 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes. I could do 15 people, I could do 50 people, or I could do 2, and it really doesn't make a difference. It's just more of a commitment level at that point. So that's my opinion on that.
For those of you who don't know, Seattle is nicknamed Jet City. Jet City.
Yeah, we're hushing for the Jets in case I look like I completely lost my mind. It's just easier not to try to talk over them, but that is the Blue Angels, correct?
That is the Blue Angels.
Yeah, so they're out there partying like rock stars directly above us, which is very cool when you see them come by. But so if I look like I'm lost, I'm not. I'm just lonely. Come give me a hug. So really you have to look at your price list and decide what works for you. If it's a matter of a barrier and you truly aren't comfortable working with 6 people and you have to allow more time, then you have to consider it economically. If you're putting 30 more minutes on it, you need to make more money. I totally understand that. But very quickly I eliminated that concept. One fee no matter what you do, and we really drive people for the location works. If I can get them outside of the studio, that's my preference. Newborns, maternity, most of those are scheduled inside. So in the summer and fall, I work 1 day inside, 3 days outside. In the winter months, of course, we're inside all the time, but I do have a very nice portrait park that even in the winter, I can, you know, put kids in snow boots and jackets and take them out to the trees and, you know, get a few frosty shots at the very end of a session. Okay, the equipment I use, we use a lot of equipment, and it's not all listed here, but I've been using quantum flash turbo batteries for 15 years or more. So that is a big part of what I do, but I've switched over to the Canon system with the 580s, and now I just got the 600 EXRT flash. I am so excited about these because high-speed sync is something that I have been playing with and trying to figure out. I've actually tested several different systems, and when I heard that Canon was coming out with a high-speed sync option, I flipped out. So I had to get my hands on them. In fact, on the tour, one of the bays is dedicated to high-speed sync and flash because I just feel like I'm still in the learning. I mean, I completely understand flash, but this is a new flash with new elements, and so I'm really studying hard to be prepared for that. But I'm not the only instructor. There'll be people who are very skilled teaching, like Jordan Chan. He is aces at flash, and he's going to be partying with us for the first week or so. So this is something that it's not new. Working with the Canon flashes are not new, but the new system is incredible. And I know, I have a feeling once I get a real handle on that, I will be letting go of everything else and working with those. Also, of course, have to have the portable treat box and tickler wherever you go. We have a little fabric lunch bag that has all the candy in it. And then, of course, our car is full of those ticklers, those feather dusters. And that's pretty much all I need to have on location. Now, we do use the tripod. And I know I saw on my Facebook a ton of people saying, what's that tripod again? And that's the Manfrotto 058B is the body of the tripod. And the head is a 222, which is a pistol grip is my preference. There are 3 different grips that you can have, a pan head and a pistol grip. And then they have a side grip as well. I'm sorry, the joystick head. The pistol grip, I believe, is the side one, but the 222 is the number, so go with that. And that is the one that allows me to go horizontal and vertical very quickly. But I don't think I have to explain this tripod. It's pretty clear. It's pretty amazing. Everybody, when they ask things like, we had a question, you know, how do you work with 13-month-old twins by yourself? And I probably should have shot that by myself. I know I could have done it. But the reality is, without a tripod, there is no way I could do that. I don't know how anybody could do that because, honestly, the time frame is by the time you pick back up the camera, recompose, and refocus, you're out of luck, and they're out the door. And you saw how fast they were moving. It was constant. Your best window in that case, it's the shock and awe, is what we call it, is when I sat them down, I started clapping and making noise and tapping on the floor because I have to super focus them and engage them and take them back to the camera. And those first 5 or 6 shots are going to be the strongest shots I have because once they're over my face and who I am, then you saw towards the end when we were trying to get those last shots, I was clapping and jumping and chickens and you name it, and they had put up their own wall back into their little toddler wall, and they had blocked me out. So tripod is paramount to handling difficult situations for me. The van, this is something that not everybody, first of all, I didn't always have a truck dedicated to photography. For 13 years working out of my home, I had a van, a minivan, because I was a mom and had 3,000 children. So it just makes sense to have a minivan. But I had a space in my garage, and we had a tiny garage and a tiny triplex with, you know, neighbors and everything else. And I had, at that time, 6 children, 4 foster and 2 of my own. It was before my last 2 were born. And I didn't have the space or the money or any of the luxuries that I have. And I don't know that I have a whole lot of luxuries, by the way. Come see my house, you'll see. But I reserved a space in my garage. And previous to that, in my apartment, I reserved a space right next to my front door. And all of my, I'm going to call them spring special props. That's everything I would take outside on location. They were all piled there. And every day I would have to haul them down to my car, load them in, and go out and work, and then come back and take them out so I could take the kids to dinner or whatever was happening there. So understand, there was a sacrifice there. Now, obviously, eventually getting to the point where the good old minivan that was the family van, we finally graduated to older kids so we could get a real vehicle. That van, having it paid for, it made no sense to sell it off. We just pulled out the seats and turned it into a work truck. And it was cheap. I mean, it was paid for, and it was probably worth $800 anyway, or maybe $1,000 anyway. So it didn't make sense to sell it. I wouldn't get anything for it, and it became a really great truck. So that's something that you know, you can kind of consider is once you can get to that point, either have the space, or it was sure nice when the truck was just loaded and I just had to get in the car and, you know, zip on out to the place, and I didn't have to do the extra work on the side. So I'm going to show you a little video here of the van just to kind of give you an idea. It's kind of like Tetris. With all the props and junk that I have, you have to, like, we literally had to stack and put it in, and it took years to figure it out. But and remember, this is photographed probably 4 or 5 years ago, or videotaped, I should say. And for 10 years before that, I'd been going to that same park doing the same spring special. Spring special in our studio is the little white dresses, the little overalls, the tea set, the swing, the fishing pole, and it was years and years, and I did it years before that too. So that's what this van was really set up for. When I finally purchased my studio and I had an outdoor park, I have the same grassy, beautiful area. I can just throw a tea set out there and leave it. So I don't have to utilize this van, but it was awesome. I mean, years and years did I use this. So let's take a look. Okay, I want to show you what we have in our car when we travel. We keep a van loaded at all times with all of these props that you see. Just makes our job really easy. So we're going to kind of go through some of the things. Now this is still, we're kind of transitioning into fall and leaving spring. We're right in this September month. So this is part of spring special. The little tea set's really great. We have a little bug catching net, some fishing poles, some baskets, apples. Those are fake apples. This is our spring swing, so we hang this up during the springtime, and this is our fall swing. Normally we don't have both in the car, but again, we're transitioning. Some people have seen this and want it, and some people have seen this and want it. So we have both swings, little fence posts, more props, our little antique stroller for little girls, antique bike for little boys. We have 2 wagons. We have a brown wagon for more of the antique look, and then over there we have the little red flyer wagon. So that has more of a modern look to it. Again, this is a transitional prop. This is fall, so this is out here. This is wicker by design. In addition to the props that you see, several important bins. This one is overalls. We keep a bin of overalls in all sizes. So we have everything from a newborn all the way up to a parent size. So if I had to throw mom in, I could do that if I needed. So we've got the overall bin. This bin is teddy bears, books, and the tea set we keep in here. So, and it has little fake strawberries and things like that. It also has our spring linens for putting out tea set. We also have mom's dresses. So if I have to put mom and dad in a picture again, I have something to do that with. So this is again a spring box. And then here we have our flower box. So I keep a box of long stem flowers. Now in the springtime, this is how we get all those field of flowers. You'll see we just kind of toss them into the grass. So these would be spring. We're transitioning into fall again, so we've got both out here. Pretty soon, within 2 weeks, all the white stuff you see is going to be gone, and we're going to get all the fall only in the car. So we've got this. We also carry a ladder. This is what I use to hang the swings. And to finish it up, we've got a couple of the camp chairs, which are nice just when I have to take a break and relax. And then we always carry a tow dolly just in case we're hauling a lot of this somewhere. Most of the time, we actually dress the kids right at the car, and then we take them out to the field. We'll get here in the morning, we'll bring 3 or 4 props down to where we're shooting and stay there all day long. And last but not least is the all-important emergency kit. This kit is full of everything you could possibly need: hairbrushes, ties, bug repellent, scuff, nail polish remover, bubbles, clamps, safety pins, anything and everything that can go wrong, duct tape, you name it, we've got it in here. That way, if we have an emergency or we need something, we've got it right at hand. So this is the whole truck. The only thing that's not shown here is our camera, tripods, and stands. And then we have a whole line of clothing. But as soon as I get all this in the truck, I'll go ahead and show you that. So we have everything in the car now. Just wanted to show you what the back would look like. We have all the clothing, boys' clothes, girls' clothes. These are still spring special. They'll switch out for fall. Our lighting equipment, our camera bags, our tripods, our stands, our cue flashes, ticklers, our camp chairs. You can see everything fits in here nicely, and then I'll show you how all those props managed to make it in. It took about 15 years to figure this puzzle out, but as long as we put in everything sort of on its side and in nicely, we're able to get all that stuff in the car, and it makes it perfect. Wherever we go, we're ready to go. All right, let's do it. All right, so that didn't happen overnight. That's many years of buying and building and creating, and that was actually 2 seasons worth of stuff, so it's usually not that packed. But kind of just to give you an idea of something you could consider. I mean, if somebody's getting rid of an old vehicle or, you know, an old van or something like that, you could actually consider doing something like that. I mean, those props, honestly, that wagon, that old antique wagon, made so much money I couldn't even begin. The tea sets, just tens of thousands of dollars have been made on those. Now, they're definitely not my style anymore. I never think about tea sets, and yet for years it was tea party time, you know, fishing pole time. So, they get louder right about the time you think they're gonna go away. So that's something that, you know, just ideas. There are certainly other better props these days that you can work with, but though that was my bread and butter for many, many years. And I think it's nice to be organized, it's nice to be prepared. It just made it really easy. And I think it's one of those things, as usual, the more room you have, the more room you'll use. So if you have a half a car, you'll use it. If you have a whole car, you'll use it, and you just keep adding to the mix. Now, I want to talk about the emergency kit. I mentioned it when I, just in the van, but you could see